everyone, and welcome to Living Chronic. Today, I am speaking with Jill Buzby, super mom, disabled kid mom, just out there doing the best possible work. And I'm so excited that she came here to share her experiences with being the mother of disabled children. So, welcome, Jill.
Oh, thanks, Brandy.
Now, like I said, you're a mom to disabled children, and you've been doing this for a while. Your oldest son is 16 years old. So
Right.
tell me a little bit about your experience and a little bit about what you've learned and how to advocate for your disabled children.
I have three kids, and my oldest is in college right now. And she's, while technically neurotypical, she's got anxiety issues. And so we deal with that. Um, and then my second child is 18 and she has Down syndrome. And of course, that we knew before she was even born that that was going to be the case. And then my son is 16. And he has nonverbal autism. And so basically, for 18 years, I've been advocating. Um, my daughter needed open heart surgery shortly after birth. And so it began, I think, even before she was born, making sure that she was going to get the best care and she was going to get the things that she needed. And that she had the surgery. It was fine. She's good. But then it starts with preschool. You start having to address the issues that your kids are having with whether they need speech therapy or occupational therapy or special ed classroom. And that started when she was probably 1.5. And so I'm not sure I even know what it's like to not be in that position, because I've been literally advocating for my kids for 18 or more
And,
years.
that's what's so amazing to me because I think that my experience is similar to the majority of Americans. I never knew anything about what it was like to be a chronically ill person, a disabled person at all until it happened
Mhm.
to me. And then I was so surprised to learn all of these different things, how difficult it is to get help, how many obstacles are put in your
Right.
way, the bureaucracy. There's just so
Yep.
much that you have to deal with, and it almost, I like to joke that I really needed a PhD in bureaucracy and chronic illness and care versus, my MBA
Sure.
because it's so
Right.
difficult. It's almost as if they're putting up these barriers on purpose.
It does feel that way
Yeah.
a lot of times. And it may be true sometimes. And you go into an IEP meeting, which is a individualized education plan that disabled kids have in the school system. Um, and it's just you. And around the table are all sorts of members from the school and the school system. And they're all there to tell you that we can't do that. Um, and it's not all bad. Of course, there are wonderful people who want to help your child and want to give you services and give you the things that you need and create a plan. But so many times you hear, well, we just can't do that. Well, she's just not able. We just don't even need to shoot for that goal because she's not able to do that. And it's sort of you against this entire
Right.
table of people where you're saying, no, that's not okay. My child deserves this, um, and is legally entitled to this. And you can't say that you can't provide that. And you get into a battle where, of course, they have their restrictions of, time and money and staff and all of the things. And I get that. But my kid deserves this. And it becomes and it's very emotional too because it's your
Very
kid you're
emotional.
talking about.
Yes. Yes. I've learned that the
Yeah.
hard way. You can be very
And
objective when you're advocating for somebody else. When it's your life, your child,
yeah.
your family, it's so difficult and emotional.
Yeah. And you go into these meetings and things and you listen to reports and you have to fill out your own things for all kinds of all the services, all of the things that my kids get, like Social Security and Medicaid waivers and things. You have to fill out these reams of paperwork basically saying what
Mhm.
your kid can't do, which is just heartbreaking. And you have to sort of remove yourself from it and go, okay, like I've got to tell the truth here. I've got to sort of downplay it. I can't be emotional about it because this is what's going to get them what they
Yes.
need. But if you sit there all day, every day and, just hear like, Sarah can't do this. Well, she's this far behind. Well, William is not ever going to do this. So it's just horrible.
Of course
It's
it
so
is.
emotionally draining. So that's a whole other part of it that you kind of have to compartmentalize and, think, okay, this isn't about my kid. Like, it's not personal. Um, and a lot of times it seems like the people on the other side forget that this is a human we're talking about and this is my kid we're talking about, and I'm frustrated and I'm emotional and I'm getting upset, and um, it's they're just sort of on the bureaucracy
Mhm.
side and going, well, no, you got to call somebody else. Well, you did this all wrong, and without sort of realizing that they're talking to a real human who is talking about their
No,
child.
absolutely. And there's two things you said that, I think is so important for people to remember, to learn by, and to focus on. The first is knowing what your child is entitled to, knowing what you're entitled to, knowing what the law is. And I had another guest with Crohn's disease, just like me, who was talking about times when she was in a bad flare, when she was ill, and she knew to go to her boss and say, "No, you can't do that. It's illegal. This I'm entitled to under the
Mm,
Americans with Disabilities Act." I thought that that was so brilliant.
right.
What a way to stand up for yourself and say, "No, I
Yep.
know." The importance of education. But the other thing is, I think many people forget that we're all humans. There are humans involved. I know you're busy. I know you
Yeah.
have however many more patients, however many more sheets of paper that are about to
Hmm.
cross your desk. These are humans behind
Right.
everything. And we have emotions, we have needs, just like
Yep.
you know?
And, I'm doing this for my kids. You're doing it for yourself, and you're not feeling well probably a lot of times when you're going through these hoops too, which just makes your patience is just that
Oh, I've
much
worried for
shorter
people before
because,
talking to me. I've worried. I've
yeah,
honestly worried for them. I thought, oh goodness, please don't hurt this person, Brandy.
right. Yeah. And it's just, it's unfair that the people who are feeling the poorest and who are the busiest have that much more work to do to get the things that other
Just have
people
every
just
day.
have.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I I've probably said this before, but I've recently started writing my next blog post. I said, I don't want to be an inspiration. I don't. And I
Yes.
understand why we see so many inspirational stories. It does feel good when you see the kid with Down syndrome who overcomes the odds and starts a business, or wins
Hmm.
the swim and Special Olympics, or
Yeah.
the person with Crohn's who persevered and got out of the hospital and started a new career.
Hmm.
But the story I never see are the disabled people, this world, the moms, the husbands, the wives, the kids, the families, the loved ones, who are just sick of it all, just ready to just throw it
Yeah.
down. I do have days where I just said, you know what? I'm not going to do anything. I'm not an inspiration. I'm not strong. I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
And That's my
Hmm.
job today.
Yeah. There, you've probably heard the term inspiration porn, and it's very much these things that people post. Oh, isn't this wonderful? Oh, look, he got
Yes.
invited to prom. Well, you know,
Yeah.
thousands of kids get invited to prom every year. Like, why is, this is special because my
Yeah.
kid has a disability? It's, why are you celebrating that? I, they shouldn't be an inspiration for getting something that other
No.
people take for granted. And the other thing, I think we've might have talked about this before too, is the sort of the comment, and it's always, almost always meant well.
Oh,
Oh, I could
oh,
never do what you do. Oh, oh, I could just, oh, good thing, they have you as their mom because I sure couldn't do what you do. Well, yeah, you
exactly.
do what you have to do. Like,
But
no, it
I
isn't
have to.
fun. Right, exactly. And there are days I'm not sitting here going, "Oh, this is so great. This is so fun." There are days when I'm crying and I'm yelling at the phone, and but I
Yes.
do it because I have to do it.
Yeah.
And I would rather
Because you
not
don't want
have
to
to
be an
do it.
inspiration. We
Um,
don't want to be.
mm-mm.
Please don't send
No, we
beavers to my
just want to have
house.
the
Thank you.
things that,
If you do
yeah,
send NBC4 over, send them over when I'm crying. I feel like it's so accurate. Are there times where I'm a huge triumph? Sure. Do I like to celebrate it? Absolutely. The people I
yeah,
love,
yep,
people that mean something to me, let's come together. Look what I just did. I sometimes I feel like it is more
hmm,
important to highlight and say, you know what? No, you would do it too. And we're humans just like you. And there's a lot of days where I'm
right,
sick of it all. No, I don't want to hear about your cousin who got through it
yep,
all. And, I don't. Just let me cry. I'll get
yeah,
up tomorrow.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
Yeah, that's
because you
life.
have to.
But today,
Yeah. And I mean, I think it is true what you were saying. Like you had no idea before, you were in the position. And it's hopefully a little window into,
yeah,
what, not every day is great. We don't like this either, but this is what we have to do. Maybe it makes people think like, oh, yeah, um, I guess certain things are hard that I never would have thought of. I mean, I think I get that comment sometimes too when I've brought something up. Can't think of anything offhand, but someone saying, I
mhm.
never would have thought of that. I never would have thought that would be an issue, or I never would have, that wouldn't have crossed my mind that you would have to go and actually ask someone to have that.
I think
Or,
we learn something new every day. There's always something new to
yeah.
learn, of course. And, of course, I told you that one of the, I mean, I know you, but something that just struck me was a Facebook post that you made, and there was a photo with just stacks and stacks of paper all over the table. And this was
Hmm.
just an everyday, this was something that you have to do to get your children services.
Right. Applying for some
And
services.
I thought that's the real
Hmm.
learning point right there. I told you earlier that when I couldn't go to work at one point, the doctor says to
Hmm.
me, "Oh, just apply for disability." Like, that's first of all, that's just not how it works. You don't just apply for disability. This is a bureaucracy with layers
Right.
and layers and layers, and it's not designed to be easy. And I
Yeah.
thought that photo you posted just illustrated that
Right.
point so well. How hard you have to work, but you're entitled to.
Yeah. And it's kind of designed to fail. I mean, and not everyone has the privilege, whether that's time or money or your educational level or the color of your skin or whatever it may be, to sit
Hmm.
down and get through all of that. um, you know Maybe English isn't your first language, maybe you don't understand how certain things work in this country because you're new here, or how are you really going to get through all of that paperwork and all the phone calls and being told, oh nope, you've called the wrong number, you got to figure out who else to call. If you don't have a certain level of privilege to be able to take the time and to know how to do that. because it is not
No.
easy at
And
all.
I've said it in every show I've done. I am a pushy broad. I'm, I'm kind of, I'm very type A, as an Army officer, got an MBA, spent a
Yeah.
career in management and leadership. Um, and still, there's times where I think, I can't push forward anymore. So if you're
Yeah.
timid, and many
Right.
people are just by nature, maybe question yourself. Like, I know I'm right
Hmm.
sometimes, and I'll tell you, no, no, I've read the law, I know what it is. But what if you're not a very well
Right.
educated person, and maybe you feel intimidated by this person you're on the phone with who, probably has this big education you don't have, and they're making you feel intimidated, say, no, you won't understand.
Hmm.
Um, that is what stops a lot of people, I
Right.
think. They think, oh, I'm
And even when you are in a position where I've read the law about free and appropriate education and, the ADA and all of these regulations, I know what, my kids are legally entitled to have. But you're in a meeting where five people are saying, no, we can't do
amazing.
that. And then you start to go, okay, well, wait a second. Like, what did that one sentence in the FAPE say? Like, do I have it right? Am I wrong? And you just get to a point where no matter if you are a type A person or
All the
your
time.
stuff, you start second guessing and you start go, oh, okay, well maybe they're right. Maybe they can't do that. Um, and it's hard enough when you've got your emotions going and you're trying to remember all the things.
Yeah.
To keep it all straight and to actually get, and sometimes you're just tired, either tired of dealing with it or literally tired because
Yep.
your 16-year-old was up all night, um, that you're just kind of like,
I
all
give
right,
in.
fine, fine, you know yeah, which is just,
It's not.
it's
And I
not
tell you
fair.
what, if my life, if your life, if it were an assignment handed off to, somebody in a corporation, they'd get a staff of at least 15 people to help out dealing with this.
Yeah.
We'd have a, maybe a
Sure.
medical doctor in there. We'd have, some psychiatrists in our team. We'd have the
Yeah.
MBA trying to reorganize the whole, affair. It's hard. It's really
Sure.
hard.
Yeah, but I think you just
You
have to
do.
power through. I mean, what is that saying where there's like, the only way
Yes.
over it is through it or something? um you just have to, and you just have to sort of gather your village and your team and make your own sort of, you know cheering section or assistance or whatever you need, which is why I think a lot of like special needs moms are very close, because
Yes.
somebody else has gone through it, and you can reach out and say, what do you do when the school just won't give you X, and you need
Mhm.
you need to ask for help too, because we just no one person can do it by themselves. And I'm sure you probably have
Oh,
support groups or people that that have the same circumstances as you, where you kind of bounce things off each other and go like, what do you
the
say,
support
or who
groups,
do
I
you
think, are the
call
most important
when?
thing for everybody, no matter your personal situation, whether you're a caregiver, whether you're a disabled person yourself,
Yeah.
chronic illness sufferer, your support group,
Hmm.
your loved ones. That's the most important thing. I could not survive. As soon as I ended up with drug-induced lupus, I got really lucky, if you will. I hate using the L word. It's no luck here, but my neighbor, I moved,
Right.
and my neighbor has UC, and I have Crohn's, so we immediately bonded over that. Oh my gosh, we moved in next
Mhm.
door to each other. And then as I was going through the drug-induced lupus, she
Right.
comes over and she says, Brandy, my best friend back in Boston has drug-induced lupus. Will you talk to her? And I said, well, my goodness, yes. And, you know, it was the support
Hmm.
system we both needed. Because there's just times you don't think you're going to survive it.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if there's no actual help involved, just knowing that you've got somebody
Yeah.
else who's in the same circumstances as you that you can sort of
It's
commiserate
on every
with
level.
or
But the tips and
whatever.
tricks, I mean,
Um,
you're right. Because we're already tired, right? We've done so much research on things that we're not experts in.
right.
I mean, if only I could go back in time and tell 18-year-old me you're going to be ill, I would have switched a major to biology. But, you know, those those time
Yeah.
machines don't
Go to medical
exist.
school or something.
So here I am. But you know just as well as I do how
Right.
difficult it is to do so much research on something you're not an expert in. And then after doing the research, you don't
Yeah.
have an advocate to toss it over to. So now you just change hats and put on your advocacy hat. And now you're pushing that
Right.
road. So it's so much easier to be able to reach out to your friend, your support group, and say, who's done this? What do I do?
Yeah.
I have nothing left in me. Give me some instructions.
Yeah. And, yeah. And there's power in numbers too. Years back, I don't know how long it's been around, but in
That's
Arlington, a
outstanding.
special ed PTA was created because some issues just weren't being addressed. And one person couldn't make a difference. But when you get, a whole entire group of parents who all have students in the school system to push for something,
Yeah.
um, then it's not so hard. Um, and you can go and say, this is an issue that's happening in my school or my neighborhood. Can you guys back me on this? And that helps tremendously too, because there's power in numbers a lot of times. And so you can get both the like emotional and actual support that you need to get
And
something
it's
changed.
so important. We talked a little bit earlier about, that strength in numbers and being represented. And something that I had never thought about. Even when you're
Mm-hmm.
too tired, even when you're sick of it and think, oh, you know what,
Yeah.
I can cover the cost of this, you apply for the services because if too few people apply,
Mm-hmm.
if too many people just give up, then suddenly whatever politician or
Right.
bureaucrat is involved with that particular program, they say, well, numbers are dwindling. It looks like we could cut services. And you have to be represented.
Right. And the thing is
Hmm.
that everything is interconnected. So if you kind of drop the ball on one thing or choose like, well, we don't really need that service right now. I'm just not going to worry about that at this point. Down the line, let's say then you want to get your kid into some supported housing. They're 20 years old now. They need to move out of the house. You need a respite. They should be, using some of their
Hmm.
independent living skills. So you want to get them into a group home. Well, you have to have the thing that you dropped the ball on
Right.
4 years ago, because if you don't have that, you can't
Yep.
get into the, supported group housing. So everything is connected in some way. You'll try to get something and they'll say, well, you don't already have SSI. So you need to get that first before you can get our thing. And it just goes around and around. So you can't really slack on some of this
Yes.
unless you're going to slack on all of it.
Right.
And who has the
But,
means to actually
and
do that?
unfortunately, I mean, I know it's been this way for myself, so I'm sure it's something similar. Nobody just hands you a very easy flow chart to follow. Oh, well, it's eventually going to need this, so let's make sure we're starting with this
Yeah,
today so that in 7 years we'll be ready
right.
for this. And of course, that would be
Exactly.
phenomenal to have that kind
Hmm.
of informational, but they just don't do it
Right.
for you.
No, and I think sometimes they can't because each
Right.
they don't even know what they're doing a lot of times. So you'll like I know a lot of our kids are getting to the age where they're applying for SSI and Social Security, and it gives a little bit of money per month for them. Um, and no
Oh
two
gosh.
people that you talk to will give you the same story. If you call and say, okay, so, I submitted the application 2 months ago. I'm supposed to be doing this now. Someone will say, no, that's no, you're not. You have to go back and do this. And you, but if you talk to a different
Right.
person in the same agency, you would get a different story because it's so complicated and so bureaucratic that even they don't know what they're doing. And so
Mhm.
it's just it's crazy making because you go around in circles and you can literally
Yes.
spend a day on the phone trying to get one little
That's
thing
probably one of the
accomplished.
biggest things I like to drive home when people ask me, "Well, what's so time consuming about what you're doing?" Well, that I can spend all day long on the telephone and maybe if I'm lucky accomplish one tiny thing. And then now that I've done that, I can add on to that tomorrow.
Right.
Putting in my next 10-hour day.
Right. Yeah. And this is all
Mhm.
again just to get simple things for our kids or our parents or ourselves that everybody else just has.
And we should
Um,
be able to have it as well.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I
Right.
think that's,
Exactly.
one of the
Without all of
things,
this.
I've one of the there's a lot of big things I've learned and taken away from this experience in my life. But one of them is please stop thinking of me as somebody different than you because I'm not. We all are. We're humans. Maybe we all have different
Yes.
abilities,
Right.
but, often
Hmm.
I can live my life the same as you. I just need a couple accommodations. That's it. Stop treating me like I'm so
Yep.
different. I really do have a lot
Exactly.
of capabilities, and it's the same for the
Yep.
disabled children. They'll act like, or the parents, like, I'm
Hmm.
not that different than you. I just need a little help, really. Yeah.
Right.
So I ask,
Yep. Exactly. And it can happen.
yeah, we can.
It can happen to anyone. Just because you don't give birth to a disabled child doesn't mean your life can't change. God's forbid there be an accident, there be an illness, something,
Yep.
your life can turn into
That's
mine
what's so scary.
tomorrow.
Children, your spouse, a family member. I'm confident my husband never in a million years thought that this would be our life when he married me. When he married, no, when he married me,
Right.
I made,
And neither did
I
you.
was a pretty great career, and I was super independent. And he was so proud of marrying this woman who
Hmm.
just did everything on her own and was so strong and independent.
Right.
And now, not that I'm not still strong and independent, but I require a level of care that I certainly didn't need
Yeah.
15 years ago.
Right. Yes. And so I think even if these
Hmm.
sorts of things don't affect you
They could. Don't
personally, you're
don't think
lucky.
you're immune. Yeah.
But they might. And just like you said, we're not so different from you. Um, you know, you could be us at any point. And so for people to not think of this as sort of an other issue, like this doesn't affect me, this is
Hmm.
not going to affect me, these are not my people. So I don't really need to pay much attention to this or worry about accommodations or, I don't need to say to the library, hey, you don't make it very easy for us to get in this building because at any moment it could affect you. And sort of, um, what's good for a disabled person can also be good for you. And so you may think it doesn't affect you, but
Yeah, absolutely. And I
really
mean, we're all
it
interconnected as
does or it
people,
could.
you know, um, and
Right.
any and every person could be somebody special in my life at any moment in time. And you never know how that disabled
Mhm.
person that you're ignoring right now could be a very important piece of your life at some point.
Yeah,
So I always
exactly.
ask everybody, what do you
Yeah.
wish you knew?
So,
What's the one thing you really wish you knew when you first, and for you, it's going to became a disabled mom?
yeah. I I don't know. You know, like I
Mhm.
said, I feel like I've been doing this for so long. I kind of don't even know. I don't, not kind of, I
Right.
don't know what it's like to be kind of a typical mom because my oldest child was 16 months when her sister was born.
Mhm.
And so from that point, this is my life. So, um, but I think when I started out, I thought I had a lot of fears about what it was going to be like. Um,
Mhm.
and in a lot of ways, it's really normal. It's, you know, my life is very much like anyone else's. My parenting is very much like anyone else's. Everyone's looking out for their kid. Everyone's, you know, going to the teacher or the coach or the whoever and saying, hey, this wasn't fair. Um, and that it's going to be really, really hard a lot of the time,
I think that's the
but it's
best
also going to be
takeaway that
fine.
I've heard since, again, starting living chronic. I just keep hearing over and over again, you know what I learned? It's going to be fine. You're still going to live a great life.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Yes,
coming on
exactly.
and sharing some of your lessons learned in your life and what it's like being the mom of disabled children. I really appreciate you coming on. Well, thank
Yeah, it
you.
was great to chat. Thanks for having me.